بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. So we're carrying on today inshallah with the فعل قياسي, and last lesson we've done الفعل اللازم. Today we're moving on to الفعل المتعدي. Okay, so we have القسم الثاني is what? الفعل المتعدي. So القسم الثاني الفعل المتعدي وهو الذي يتجاوز, not لم يتجاوز but يتجاوز. So الفعل المتعدي الذي يتجاوز أثر فاعله إلى المفعول به. It is that verb whose the effect of the fa'il transcends, goes on to the maf'ul bihi. For example, حفظ الصديقان القرآن. So now here you have حفظ is a verb, صديقان is a fa'il. So the effect of حفظ goes on to the word Quran. So they're doing the memorization occurs on the Quran. Yes, this is basically the Arabic text of what we already know in English of a transitive verb. Understood? Yes, so far so good? Yes? Okay. Now here we have a new masala. We have here قد يكون الفعل متعديا بنفسه. Sometimes the verb is متعدي بنفسه. بنفسه, how do you translate بنفسه? It's already come in the Arabic book. How do you translate بنفسه? By itself. بنفسه. تأكيد. So sometimes the fa'il is متعدي by itself, meaning there's no حرف جر. It's not غير صريح, explicit, direct. So you call it متعدي بنفسه, or you can also call it متعدي بلا واسطة, without any additional any medium, just directly. نحو اتبع المسلمون المرسلين. The Muslims followed or obeyed the messengers. So اتبع المسلمون المرسلين. So the فعل متعدي, the فعل can be متعدي by itself. So in here is the مفعول به, does it have a حرف جر to make it فعل متعدي? No. By itself, directly, indirectly, without any medium, this becomes the مفعول به. This becomes what? The مفعول به. Understood? And obviously the next one is وقد يكون الفعل متعديا. This is a new word here. بواسطة حرف جر. Sometimes the فعل becomes متعدي بواسطة, by means of the حرف جر. وقد يكون الفعل متعديا بواسطة حرف جر. Sometimes the فعل becomes متعدي via the حرف جر. Meaning, for example, تمسكت الصالحات بسنة الحبيب صلى الله عليه وسلم. The pious women held fast. What did they held fast to? What's the مفعول به? They held fast to this thing, the sunnah of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. But is it مفعول به directly? Yes or no? No. Why? Why is it? How is it become مفعول به? We have the ba. So via the حرف jar, via this ba is how it's becoming مفعول به. So this is فعل متعدي, but فعل متعدي بواسطة, via something, via a means. So وقد يكون الفعل متعديا بواسطة. So you have فعل متعدي بنفسه and فعل متعدي بواسطة حرف جر, by means of the حرف جر. This is what we call it. This is what we have done in the Arabic book as well. مفعول به غير صريح. Understood? Are you following? Mm-hmm. So this is a bit of a tricky one in terms of definition. Would we count تمسك as فعل لازم or فعل متعدي? So somebody says تمسك because it has no. So if you look at it, is it مفعول به صريح? Then it doesn't have مفعول به صريح. So somebody says فعل لازم. Because I have مفعول به غير صريح, it's going to call it متعدي. So in this way, the books are not very, very clear. So how do you define? So you can argue both ways. If you look at the مفعول به element, غير صريح element, it's what? متعدي because it has a مفعول به غير صريح. And if you say no, it must have a مفعول به direct, then it's فعل لازم. So you can argue for both ways. We stop here, inshallah. Continue tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. So moving on, we discussed فعل لازم and فعل متعدي. We have the definition of فعل متعدي. Now we're saying here والفعل المتعدي ثلاثة أضرب. That the فعل متعدي is of three types. Okay, there are three types of فعل متعدي. In surah which is the lazim muta'addi. Now we're studying here 3 types of fa'al muta'addi. Okay? So we have al-maqsad al-awwal, we have the bab al-awwal, then the qiyasi, al-fa'al al-lazim, and fa'al muta'addi. And now here we have maf'ulun wahid. So some verbs will have 1 maf'ul, some verbs will have 2 maf'uls, and we've done that in the Arabic book, and some verbs will also have up to 3 maf'uls. So you have 3 maf'uls. What's the difference between all of these structures? We'll discuss it shortly, inshallah. And then the rest we've done already. The sama'i, we've done all of those before. But our main focus now is on this part. The fa'al muta'addi can come in 3 different ways. The most common is this one, obviously. This is sometimes, this is very rare. So yes, but we need to know all 3 of them. So a fa'al muta'addi is 3 types. What's the first type? Ad-darb al-awwal, the first type, al-muta'addi ila maf'ulin wahid, is that verb which is muta'addi to 1 maf'ul, meaning it has 1 maf'ul like normal. Sami al-Quran, qara al-kitab, ra'a al-mu'allima, he saw the teacher, etc. So these are the most common types. For example, خَلَقَ اللَّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the heavens and the earth. Is this 1 maf'ul in here, 2 maf'uls in here? It's 1 maf'ul. So I put this example on purpose to show you that, look, the waw harful atf does not make it 2 maf'uls. When you have a harful atf in between, this is a maf'ul bihi, this is a ma'tuf under. So if you do tarkeeb, you will say, this is a maf'ul bihi made up of ma'tuf alayhi and ma'tuf. And in I'rab, you will say, this is 1 maf'ul bihi, this is ma'tuf and a maf'ul bihi. So even though it has 2 parts, don't think it's maf'ul. I don't think it's 2 maf'ul. That's why this example is there brought particularly. Understood? Okay. Ad-darb al-thani al-muta'addi ila maf'ulain. The second type is the fa'al muta'addi, the fa'al which goes to 2 maf'uls. It effects goes on to 2 maf'uls. For example, as'alullaha ilman nafi'a. I ask Allah for what? Beneficial knowledge. And we've done this in basic Arabic before. So in here, what's the maf'ul bihi awwal? The ilman. This is maf'ulun bihi awwal. And this is maf'ulun bihi thanin. Okay? Got it? Following? Understood? So far, so good? Yes, this is nothing new. This is Arabic terms for what we already done in our Arabic book. Now, this is where it gets a bit new. The first mas'ala. Ji, go ahead. Sorry, made a mistake here. Is Allah is maf'ul bihi. I wasn't thinking. Maf'ul bihi. So lafz jalal is maf'ul bihi. And ilman nafi'an will be, in I'rab, ilman will be what? Maf'ul bihi. Fanin. And nafi'an will be what? The na'at of ilman. Na'at of ilman. Yeah, sorry, my mistake. I was thinking of, yeah. You got it? Ji. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay. Right. Now here, look at it here. Let's look at transition. Qad, what does qad mean? When qad comes on the fa'il mudari, it means sometimes. So qad la yakunu al-maf'ulani mubtada'an wa khabaran fil asli. Sometimes the maf'ul, both maf'uls, the maf'ul bihi awwal and maf'ul bihi thani, were not mubtada and khabar in origin. For example, look here. If I said, Atayna Dawood Zabura, this example here. So, Dawood is maf'ul bihi awwal, and Zabura is maf'ul bihi thani. Maf'ul bihi awwal and maf'ul bihi thani. Correct? Now, if you were to take out the word Atayna, just for argument's sake, we took out the word Atayna, and we made it to Dawoodu Zaburun. Does that make sense? Is that a sentence? Dawood is Zaburun. Dawood is the Zabur. No, isn't it? That's not a sentence, is it? So, in these 2 maf'ul bihis, which is a standard type of maf'ul bihi, the 2 maf'uls were not originally mubtada and khabar. And this is normally how the 2 maf'uls come, usually, most times. So, you have 2 maf'uls and the 2 maf'uls were not. The 2 maf'uls were not. So, sometimes the 2 maf'uls are not mubtada and khabar in the original form. So it wasn't as if this was a mubtada khabar and we added a verb onto the mubtada khabar. It's just two separate jumla, two separate objects on their own individually. Does that make sense? Yes, following? Okay. Yes, said it before as well. As'alullah ilman nafi'a. That's also the same thing as well. The ilm, Allah and the ilm, the two maf'ools, they're not, lafz jalala and ilman nafi'a, the two maf'ools, they weren't mubtada and khabar in its original form. And then, قد يكون المفعولان مبتدأ وخبرا في الأصل. Sometimes the two maf'ools would originally have been a mubtada and a khabar without the fa'l. For example, dhanna. What does dhanna mean? To think, to assume. So dhanna means to think. Correct? Now, Ahmad is the fa'il. And then we have maf'ulun bihi awwal. And then we have maf'ulun bihi thani. Now, if you look at the sentence, if you were to say, okay, let us write Khalidun maf'ul bihi, or make the maf'ul bihi the mubtada, and we make Sadiqun the khabar. Does that make sense? It makes sense. So what it really means is that this is a mubtada khabar. And we're saying that Ahmad thought about this mubtada khabar. So this mubtada khabar, Khalidun Sadiqun, Ahmad assumed this. Ahmad presumed this. Ahmad thought this. Ahmad thought that Khalid was truthful. So if you translate it as well, you can even translate the two maf'ools as a mubtada khabar. You can say Ahmad thought, and you can write here that. There's no that here, but we can add in the that because this kind of verb has that the fa'al muta'addi ila maf'ulain, where the two maf'ools were originally a mubtada and khabar structure. You can add in the word that. So Ahmad thought that, and they go here, Khalid is truthful. See here? So the two maf'ools were originally or really have an element of mubtada khabar to it. But it's just that now we added a verb, this word dhanna, onto the mubtada khabar. Dhanna and its fa'il onto the mubtada khabar. Are you following me? Does this make sense? So the previous slide, the previous sentence was what? You can have two maf'ools, and the two maf'ools are not linked via mubtada khabar structure or meaning. And the new type of what we're doing here is that sometimes the mubtada khabar, the maf'ul bihi awwal, maf'ul bihi thani, they can be, the structure between the two of them is what? That they were originally a mubtada khabar-ish, and the fa'il and fa'il came onto that. Okay? Following? You got it? Does it make sense to everybody? Okay. So if you look at this, we can say here, asluhu, this sentence would have been originally Khalidun Sadiqun. This is a sentence, and Ahmad thought about this context. So this is the original sentence, and then Ahmad thought about it, and then because it can maf'ul bihi, you make them both mansub. But in the origin, they were originally mubtada and khabar. Okay? Yes? So far so good? Now, in kana al-maf'ulan, if the two maf'uls, mubtada'an wa khabaran fil asli, this is the shart. So if the two maf'uls are mubtada and khabar in the original form, then these verbs will be special verbs. They won't be a normal verb like a'ta or sa'ala or ja'ala. It would be a special verb. So if the two maf'uls are mubtada and khabar in original form, يكون الفعل فعل قلب أو فعل تحويل. The verbs will be either called verbs of qalb, فعل قلب, or فعل تحويل. Okay? What does فعل قلب mean? If I say, let me give you the opposite of فعل قلب. If I say, for example, أعطيتك درهما. أعطيتك درهما. I gave you 1 dirham. أعطيتك قلما. This is the action of giving a mental act, or is it a physical act that you use with your body? I gave. As'aluka, I ask you for a pen. I'm asking. The asking is your tongue. So this is now physical actions. Ja'ala, Allah made. Ja'ala Allah, Ja'ala sama. Tabarak alladhi ja'ala fi sama. That's different. Allah made the qamar into a nur. So now Allah made it. So Allah, no, so that's transferring. So when you say, when you say, okay, first let's say for example, sana'tu qalaman, I manufactured a pen. What are you doing now? Sana'a, you're making something. Akaltu ta'ama, I ate the food. Sharibtu ma'an, I drank water. These are normal actions which then the body. However, when you have two maf'ools, what's really happening? When you have two maf'ools and the two maf'ools were originally mubtada and khabar, what's really happening is there's a mubtada khabar, and you're just saying, well, I thought about this. I believe this. And the action, the verb here is actually the action of the mind, of the heart, of thinking, not an action that you do physically. Similarly, that's one option. The other option is that the first mubtada, the mubtada becomes the khabar. The mubtada is changed into the khabar. So in the top example, when we had the example here, so really is mubtada khabar, and this is a fa'lu qalb, a fa'l which is related to the heart. Meaning, I think that Ahmad is, I think that Khalid is Sadiq. So the action of the maf'ul bihi, you're not doing something physically to them. You're just creating a concept, an idea in your mind. This is called now what? Fa'lu qalb. Yes? And the other example of fa'lu tahwil is, for example, I say for example, Ja'alallahu. So let's say, okay, Muhammadun sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Rasulun. The Prophet of Allah, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he is a messenger. What is this mubtada khabar, isn't it? What we're saying here now, Allah said, Allah done this. Allah done tahweel. Allah. So Ja'alallahu Muhammadan Rasulan. Allah transformed. Transformed. You can even say made, but here it doesn't mean made as in created or manufactured. It means make something into something else, abstract way. So Allah made Muhammad into a messenger. Tahweel, to change from one state to another. Tahweel means what? To change from one state to another. So when you have fa'lu tahweel, it really means the fa'il changed the mubtada into the khabar. Made the mubtada into the khabar. It's not a physical action where it's transforming. Okay? So when you have this structure, when you have a structure where the two maf'ools were originally mubtada khabar, then this fa'il will either be a fa'il, an action, which shows of the heart and the mind, the heart or the mind, or it will be a fa'lu tahweel where the fa'il changes one thing into another. It's called fa'lu tahweel or fa'lu qalb. Is everybody following? So fa'lu qalb and fa'lu tahweel, they are the same category, but they have different functions. Fa'lu qalb is simply of the mind. You perceive something, you think about something, you think of something to be something. And fa'lu tahweel, where you change one to another, physically, or by status or whatever. But they have the same rules, but they are different in the way the meaning that they give. Any other questions? Okay. So if you look at it here, we have a fa'l muta'addi. You can have one maf'ul, two maf'uls, or three maf'uls. Now the one with two maf'uls, what will it be? It can say, well, they were originally mubtada and the khabar. They were what? Originally mubtada and the khabar. Sorry, they were not originally mubtada and khabar. So like a normal verb, for example, a'ta or etc. Or they can be mubtada and the khabar in the original form. And this can either be a fa'lu qalb, meaning what? You just think about the mubtada and the khabar. You perceive, you believe. Or you can have a fa'lu tahweel where you change one to another. And then you have those with three maf'ools. And we do the three maf'ool one later. Okay? You following? Understood? Everybody follow me? So now what are the af'al al-qulub? Which af'al al-qulub are they? So the af'al al-qulub are of two types. There are two types of af'al al-qulub. Some af'al al-qulub, so the af'al al-qulub means that they show a thought process. You think that the mubtada is a khabar. Some of them, so you say here, min af'al al-qulub. So we can translate. So min literally means from. Okay, literally means from. And af'al al-qulub. From af'al al-qulub, ma are those which. Okay. But the rule is, if you have a structure like this, you have here a min. You have min at the beginning of a sentence, followed by its majroor. Then you have ma after it, like that. So min af'al al-qulub. So you say, for example, minan nasi may yaqulu. So in this scenario, you say here some. How do you translate it? Some. So you say some af'al al-qulub are those which denote. So when you have a min at the beginning of a sentence, a khabar muqaddam followed by the ma mawsool after it, there's a possibility you can translate it as some. Okay, so here we translate it as some. So we say here some af'al al-qulub are those, and you don't have to translate as are those mixed together. So you can say here some af'al al-qulub denote. So you can put the min and the ma together and it says some. So some af'al al-qulub denote or show certainty. What does this mean? That I'm sure. For example, say, I am sure you are clever. So you are clever, mubtada khabar, and I am sure about this piece of information. I have firm conviction that you are a Muslim. So now the mubtada khabar, and you put a fa'il onto it. I am sure, or I'm certain. Are you following? Now, what two words show yaqeen? Ra'a. Now you have to remember the verb ra'a. What does ra'a mean? What does ra'a mean? To see. So if ra'a means to see with your eyes. Yeah, so if you're using the word ra'a, ra'aytul qamara, I saw the sun, I saw the moon, ra'aytul shamsa, ra'aytul masjida, ra'aytul baba, ra'aytul qalama, ra'aytul bayta. This is not fa'lul qalb, this is basically I seeing with my eyes. But if you say for example in English, I can see in a few years' time he will be a great scholar. I can see this is going to be a problem. Are you seeing it with your eyes or are you seeing it with your heart and your mind? With your heart and your mind. So this seeing not with your eyes, just seeing meaning I perceive, I believe. I see a bright future for you, meaning I believe you have a bright future. So similarly in English, if you have the two ra'a, one is ra'a to see with the eyes, or one is ra'a to see with the heart. Like to believe something, I believe. When you say I see, so it means I believe in the future. I believe in something. So if ra'a has a meaning of like not seeing with the eyes but believing, then it will have a meaning of like yaqeen, I am sure. So it's a fa'lul qalb which shows certainty. Like for example, ra'aytuka salihan. Like I believe you to be pious. Ra'aytuka aliman. I consider you to be a scholar. Ra'aytuki muttaqiyatan. I consider you to be a God-fearing woman. Everybody following me? So ra'a, not the ra'a with the eyes, but ra'a when it comes to the meaning of the heart. And I think it's getting confusing. It's not confusing. Well, it may be confusing, but you have to know because in the Quran you have different structures like this. So you have to know, is it ra'a with the eyes or ra'a with the heart? Is it to see or is it to believe? So when ra'a comes with two maf'ools, then the two maf'ools are originally mubtada and the khabar, then the ra'a can have the meaning of to believe something firmly. Yaqeen, to believe firmly. Yaqeen, faith, certainty. Does everybody understand that? Similarly, alima. Alima can also have two meanings. The meaning of alima can be come to know of. Alimtul mas'ala. I did not know the ruling. Alimtul mas'ala. I came to know of the mas'ala. That's it. I did not know him, but alimtuhu. I came to know about him. Yes? That's just to come to know of something. But you can also have alima, meaning same thing as ra'a. I believe. I have certainty about something. I feel strongly about something. So for example, you can have here. So for example, you can have here. Let's go back. You have ra'a. So ra'a can have ra'aytu shamsa. Is this fa'lul qalb? Ra'aytu shamsa. Is this fa'lul qalb? No, because this is ra'aytu with my eyes. Yes. رأيت الإسلام حقا. رأيت الإسلام دينا صادقا. Is this فعل قلب? Because you say, I consider, I believe Islam to be a true religion. Similarly, you can have alima. علمت المسألة. I understood it, I came to know about it. Is this فعل القلب? علمت الطالب مجتهدا. Obviously, it's not very eloquent sentences, but you get an idea from it for now. It'll come in a better structure later on. This is فعل القلب. I know of, I believe. This is فعل القلب. I believe the student to be hardworking. So when you say these alima or ra'a, it shows that you a thought, a action of the mind, but very strong. That yes, I'm firm in this. And min af'al al-qulub ma. So we say here, some af'al al-qulub. Dalla yadullu means what? Shows, denote, gives the meaning of. So some af'al al-qulub give the meaning of dhan. Dhan means here, I think. So this is more certainty. Certainty. Sure. Believe. And this is now more of think. Like half. But dhanna has much more detail doing balagha, inshallah. Can it have the meaning of yaqeen, etc. Different. For example, dhanna. Yes, dhanna. So for example here, let's say for example, I'm not sure, I said, أظن, let's say, أظنكم. I think, أظنكم صالحين. So what is أظنكم صالحين? مفعول به أول, مفعول به ثانٍ. I think you are pious people. I'm not sure. I can't. Only Allah knows best. But أظن, I believe this. Yes? Do you understand? So dhanna and hasiba, they have the meanings of the heart. But if you're sure about something, the word ra'a and alima would be used. If you're not sure and more of this thinking possibility, then the word dhanna and hasiba. But however, in total, they're all fa'lul qalb. They have two maf'ul bihis, and both maf'ul bihi are actually what? Mubtada and the khabar. Understood? Yes? Any questions? Okay. What are af'al al-qulub? So some af'al al-tahwil, min af'al al-tahwil, khabar muqaddam. Some af'al al-tahwil are sayyara, ja'ala, and taraka. Okay? What does sayyara mean? To change. Ja'ala, to make. Taraka, to leave. So for example here, جعل القرآن الصحابة نجوما. So here this example, remember tahwil means to change one thing into another. So for example, say جعل is فعل, Quran is the fa'il, and الصحابة becomes what? مفعول به أول, and النجوم becomes what? مفعول به ثان. Yes? مفعول به ثان. Now, what does this mean? How does it ja'ala al-Qur'ana? So ja'ala is a tahwil. Why? This verb, so really you can say here, the sahaba, as-sahabatu nujumun. The sahabas are stars. As-sahabatu nujumun. But we say here, well, what made the sahaba stars? You say the Qur'an, meaning Allah's tawfiq, the Prophet's ta'aleem, and the Qur'an made the sahaba nujum. It made the sahaba into stars. So ja'ala, it changed the sahaba from one state to another. Do you understand? Yes? Are you following me? Does that make sense, everybody? Sayyara, you can say for example, sayyara. Sayyara al-mataru. Sayyara al-mataru. I can do another example. I said ja'ala. So we say taraka. So taraka means to leave. But not just leave, but to change. So taraka موت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. ترك موت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الصحابة الصحابة حزينين. حزينين. So it means here, الصحابة حزينون. Sahaba are sad. But taraka, the death of the Prophet left the Sahaba sad. Meaning what? It changed them. Tahweel, it changed their state. Are you following me? Do you understand? Is it making sense? Say sayyara, to make one thing into another. For example, say the rain made the land into mud. The rain made the dust into mud. So sayyara, ja'ala, taraka. Sayyara means to change, make, leave. Again, if it is a taraka, for example, if you say here, tarakal waladu al-qalama. Is this fi'l al-qalb? Tarakal waladu al-qalama. The boy left the pen. That's not fi'l al-qalb. There's only one maf'ul bihi, meaning he left the pen physically. He just left it. He didn't take it. And taraka, it didn't leave, but it's like changing a state. This is a fi'l tahweel. It's not fi'l tahweel. This is not tahweel. This is fi'l tahweel. You follow me? Understand? Does it make sense, everybody? Okay. So we'll stop here today, inshallah. So inshallah, now we're moving on to the next category, is al-fa'l al-muta'addi ila thalathati mafa'il. The fa'l muta'addi which goes on to 3 maf'uls. This is very rare, but it comes in the Quran, so you have to know about this. You have a fa'l, it has a fa'il, and how many maf'uls does it actually have? How many? 3. Okay? For example, we have an example here. Amba'atka Fatimatu Allah Akbar. So here what do we have? We have here Amba'at is our fa'il. Ka, what's ka becoming? Ka becomes maf'ulun bihi. Fatima becomes, go ahead, fa'il. Allah and Akbar also become what? Maf'ul bihi fanin. This become maf'ul bihi thalith. Now, in this verb, if you look at it, again, this is a fa'l al-qalb, amba'a. Because amba'a means to inform. So in when you had 2 maf'uls, what was happening is that the mubtada and the khabar was becoming the maf'ul bihi of hasiba, dhanna, alima. I think about this piece of information. I believe in this piece of information. Now in here it's the same structure. The maf'ul bihi thani and the maf'ul bihi thalith were originally mubtada khabar. So originally it's what? Allahu Akbaru. That's what it really is. Okay? But Fatima is informing you of this piece of information. So Fatima is telling you about this information. But this information is like 2 maf'uls. Allah Akbar. So Allah is the biggest. Fatima is telling you about this. Allah is the greatest. Not biggest, Allah is the greatest. Do you understand? So when you have, so basically in hasiba, and hasiba, in dhanna, in ra'a, in alima, the fa'il is making his own perception, his own understanding. And in anba'a or akhbara, what does this mean? In these verbs, what happened? The fa'il is informing the first maf'ul about 2 things, about a sentence. So really, Fatima is informing you about this piece of information. But this information is transferred via mubtada and khabar. And now it's become maf'ul bihi thani, maf'ul bihi thalith. Does this make sense? Have you understood this? Okay, and as I mentioned in the last slide, the fi'l al-muta'addi ila thalathati mafa'il. So we have here the mubtada. Al-fa'lu al-muta'addi ila thalathati mafa'il. This is what? 1 sentence, 1 word. the fa'il muta'addi to three maf'uls. The verb which is a transitive, it transits to three maf'uls. This is mubtada. What is it? La and illa. What does la and illa become? When you have a negative plus illa, it becomes what? Adatu hasrin, yes? Meaning what? Only. So the verb which has three maf'uls is only a fa'lul qalb. You can only have a fa'lul qalb with this. So the fa'l will be fa'lul qalb, the fa'il with the person doing the action, the maf'ul bihi is the person who you are giving information to, and the maf'ul bihi thani and thalith are the mubtada and the khabar which you're giving information about. Does that make sense? Yes? And the maf'ul thani wal maf'ul thani wa thalith mubtada, and the maf'ul thani and the maf'ul thalith yakunani will be mubtada and the khabar fil asli in the original form. So originally amba'atka fatimatu Allah akbara. So Allah maf'ul bihi thani, akbar maf'ul bihi thalith, and those were originally what? Mubtada and the khabar. Does that make sense? Everyone following? That's a very good question. That when you say it has three maf'uls, it doesn't mean three maf'ul bihis. It doesn't say three maf'ul bihis. So when we say two maf'ul and three maf'uls, it means two maf'ul bihis and three maf'ul bihis, not non-maf'ul, because everything can have the other maf'a'il, maf'ul mahum, ahu, lahu, mutlaq. So yeah, the text, I'll copy the text from the other books, but you got a very good point. We should have mentioned that it should have maf'ul, al-fa'l mutaddi ila thalathati mafa'il bihi or biha. Yes? So, yeah, but I'm just saying is you could get confused. So maybe that's something that we could make sure keep in mind. So when you say it has two maf'uls or three maf'uls, it means two maf'ul bihis or three maf'ul bihis. So good point. Good. It's understood, but good to make sure you note that. We're not talking about maf'ul fihi and maf'ul lahu. Yes. So the question is, af'alul qalb is to think or to believe, correct? But in this af'alul qalb, you are making the person think. You're passing on your qalbi information or your mental information to the maf'ul bihi. So that's why the three mafa'il, when it has three mafa'il, you are thinking and the information is mental information. You're not doing an action to him, you're passing on information to him. So that's how they categorize it as maf'ul, af'alul qalb. You understand? So yes, you're informing him is not af'alul qalb, but the information you're giving him is af'alul qalb. The thing you're showing him, the thing that you are trying to inform him about, that's like a mental thing, mental information. That's why we also classify it as fa'lul qalb. Good question. So what we have here, if we look at it again, so in the maf'ul, not normal maf'ul bihi thani, not this normal maf'ul bihi thani, but when you have maf'ul bihi thani, when you have fa'lul qalb, fa'lul tahweel, basically what we have a mubtada and you have a khabar. Okay? And what we are doing, we're just adding on a fa'il and a fa'il to it. So the fa'il thought about this information. Or you can have a fa'il, a fa'il, a maf'ul bihi, and you're giving the information of the mubtada khabar to the fa'il, to the maf'ul bihi, sorry. Do you understand? So in these af'al qulub, all you're doing is basically the information and the link understood from the mubtada and the khabar. You're either thinking about it, believing in it, or transferring that information to somebody else. Is that clear? So if you look at a summary, you have fa'il muta'addi, you can have one maf'ul, a maf'ulun bihi wahid, that's what it means here, maf'ulun bihi wahid, one maf'ul bihi, or maf'ulani bihi, or you can have two maf'uls. Yes? And these two maf'uls may be mubtada and not mubtada and khabar. Like for example, a'taytuka qalaman or as'alullah ilman nafi'a. Or they can be fa'lu qalb or fa'lu tahweel. And the fa'lu, and if there's three maf'ul bihis, this will always be what? Fa'lu qalb. You understand? So these are not used too often, but they do come in the Quran quite often. Like a lot, it comes regularly, but not often. Like the majority will either be this is, let's say for example, like 90%, 5%, or let's say 7%, 7 to 8%, or 2%. Like that much is how much is used. But it does come, so you need to know that. Roughly is very rough, it could be off, but this idea, so you get idea how often it's used in the Quran. Understood? So in this example, the مفعول به ثاني and the مفعول به أول will be the مبتدأ and the خبر. And in this example, the مفعول به ثاني and مفعول به ثالث will be the مبتدأ and the خبر. Yeah? Understood? Any other questions? Yeah. So this one doesn't have there's no specific name for this one. No specific name. Because these are standard, isn't it? These are standard. When something is standard, you don't really name it specifically. That's what usually happens. So because maf'ul bihi wahid is normal, and having two maf'ul like with action to ask somebody something, to give somebody something, those are standard. So they don't have a specific name. Okay. So if we recap here, we can have فعل القلب or فعل التحويل. Are you following me? This is then followed by the fa'il, and then it is followed by the مفعول به أول and the مفعول به ثاني. Yes? This is the structure of our فعل القلب وفعل التحويل. Or you can have a فعل فاعل, like have مفعول به. This can become the ثاني. This can become مفعول به ثالث. Yes? That's also a possibility. Everybody understand? Everybody understand the structure so far? So if you look at it here, we can have a فعل قلب or a فعل تحويل followed by its fa'il, and then the مفعول به أول and مفعول به ثاني, which were originally what were they originally? The مبتدأ and خبر, correct? Or we can have a فعل قلب and a تحويل if it's fa'il, مفعول به أول, مفعول به ثاني and مفعول به ثالث. So here, this is the structure of a sentence. So we're saying here, when you have a فعل قلب, you will have one fa'il, and these two were originally what? The مبتدأ and the خبر. So you have مفعول به أول, مفعول به ثاني, or you can have ثلاثة مفاعيل, and the مفعول به ثاني and the مفعول به ثالث were مبتدأ and the خبر. Everybody following so far? Yes? Is it clear to everybody? Now what we're saying is, sometimes instead of having, and this is more common actually, instead of having a مفعول به أول and مفعول به ثاني or مفعول به ثاني and مفعول به ثالث, you can have an اسم مؤول taking the slot of both of them. What's an اسم مؤول? Can you remember from الصغرى? Yeah, so indirectly that's this sentence meaning you have a حرف موصول plus the sila. For example, أن حرف مشبه بالفعل and the خبر, or you can have أن and then the sentence after it. So what you could have, instead of saying, for example, in the first example, you say, ظن أحمد, Ahmad thought, فاطمة مريضة. What could we have? ظن, what can you have inside? What do you think you can have? ظن أحمد أن فاطمة مريضة. So what's happening here now? This اسم مؤول takes the slot of both مفعول بهs. Are you following? Is it making sense, everybody? So the اسم مؤول, this whole thing, question is, this whole thing takes the place of two مفعول به. The أن حرف مشبه بالفعل, the ism of أن, the khabar of أن, this whole thing takes the place as it replaces the مفعول به أول, مفعول به ثاني. Yes, it takes two slots. Another possibility is, G, is your question? We can also have a jumla taking the place of the two maf'uls. So for example, let's do the same structure. Instead of having a ism ma'awwal, a whole sentence can take the place. For example, ظن أحمد ما فاطمة مريضة. So ma is harf nafyin. So this jumla ma fatimatu maridatan becomes the maf'ul, takes the slot of the maf'ul bihi thani and maf'ul bihi thalis. Yes? No, sorry, maf'ul bihi awwal, maf'ul bihi thani. So this is what you come here. This becomes the maf'ul, takes the slot of two maf'ul bihi. Dhanna ahmadu Ma Fatimatu maridatan. Ahmad thought that Fatima was not ill. So in this example, the whole jumla takes the place of two maf'ul bihi. Do you understand? So even though this is what we say fa'l qalb or the fa'l tahweel must have, well, this is not. A fa'l qalb must have what? Two maf'uls, either maf'ul awwal, maf'ul thani, or maf'ul bihi thani, maf'ul thalith. More commonly in the Quran and in normal literature is that you have an and an. You have a harf from ism ma'awwal or the jumla. And the ism ma'awwal and the jumla, they take the place of the maf'ul bihi thani, two maf'uls. Is that clear to everybody? Yes? Okay. Now how do you phrase this? We say this here. Qad. What does qad mean? When it comes before fa'al mudari? Sometimes. Sadda, what is sad of Dhul Qarnayn? Sad, a blockage. So if you got here a path, you got a mountain, this is a sad, it blocks, takes a place, fills up. So we can say yasuddu, to fill, take the place of, to fill, take the place of, anything like this. Okay? So, and masadda is the ism zarf, the place. So, masadda, we say the place. This becomes the maf'ul bihi, or the maf'ul fihi. And the fa'il is coming up. This is the fa'il. So sometimes the place of the two maf'uls, maf'ulay, the two maf'uls, maf'ulay af'al al-qulub, the two maf'uls of the fa'l al-qalb. So sometimes the place of the two maf'uls of the fa'l al-qalb is blocked, is taken up by, the fa'il is coming up now. What's the fa'il? And ism al-mu'awwal is a fa'il. And this is also the fa'il. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Also here. Abil jumla. This is ma'tuf alayhi ma'tuf, the fa'il. So really, how do you translate this? Sometimes the ismul mu'awwal or a jumla can take the place of the two maf'uls of a fa'lul qalb, as in the previous text. So you have two maf'uls, but instead of having a one word and one word as mansoob, you have the whole ismul mu'awwal, or you have the jumla, and the jumla becomes sadda yasuddu. Yasuddu, it stops, it takes up the place of the two maf'uls. Do you understand? Does it make sense? Everybody following this translation? So the ism al-mu'awwal or the jumla can take the place of the two maf'uls of the fa'lul qalb. Ism al-mu'awwal, for example, a'lamu anna Muhammadan. So alima ya'lamu is to know, to believe. So alima is the fa'lul qalb, and the fa'il. And then you have, in theory, maf'ul bihi awwal and maf'ul bihi thanin. But what's happening here now? The ismun mu'awwal is taking the place of the two maf'uls. How do you do i'rab of this? We'll do it later on. In tarkib, you just say An-Nahw mushabbah bil fa'il, ism, khabar, and the mushabbah bil fa'il. We'll do tarkib later on, how to do it in the i'rab section. But do you understand the concept? We'll have the whole i'rab later on. Do you understand the idea? What's happening here? Similarly, alimta, I know, I believe, I have an idea, fa'lul qalb, fa'il and fa'il. This is supposed to be two maf'ul bihi awwal, maf'ul bihi thani. But instead of maf'ul bihi awwal and maf'ul bihi thani, what do we have? A jumla. The jumla is doing what? Yasuddu masadda maf'ulay af'alil qulub. This jumla is taking the place of the two maf'ul bihi awwal and maf'ul bihi thani of the fa'lul qalb of alimta. Understood? Is it clear to everybody? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. So let's just recap one more time. So if we have a sentence like this, Fatimatu maridatun. What kind of sentence is this? A jumlatun? What? Jumla ismiya. What's it made up of? Mubtada and khabar. Okay. Now, if we were to add what? We were to add Dhanna, meaning what? The same mubtada khabar, but we say here, well, somebody thinks this. So Fatima is sick, that's a statement. What if somebody thinks about this statement? We add dhanna, we will add a fa'il, then that mubtada and khabar become what? What does that mubtada and khabar become? مفعول به أول مفعول به ثاني. So what is dhanna? Dhanna is a فعل القلب. What does it show the meaning of? Dhann. Assumption, presumption, thoughts. Same sentence, the mubtada khabar becomes the maf'ul bihi awwal maf'ul thani. I use alima. Alima shows what? Certainty. So Zayd is sure, Zayd knows, alima, he knows that Fatima is sick. So the same mubtada khabar now becomes maf'ul bihi awwal maf'ul bihi thani. Got it? What if we add the word sayyara? What does sayyara mean? To make, to cause. And we say al-bardu, what does bardu mean? The cold. So we say, now, mubtada and the khabar, but we're saying something caused the mubtada to become a khabar. Something causes, so now, sajara becomes what? Fa'lu. What kind of fa'l is this? Fa'lu tahweel. That the fa'il, this, caused this to become this. In this is this. He believes this to be this. He knows, he's certain, this is this. And here, this caused this to become this. That's فعل تحويل. So it's all really in the مفعول به أول مفعول به ثاني were originally a مبتدا خبر kind of link. What if we have أعلم? So now somebody is informing somebody. So now Ahmad is informing his mother about this مبتدا, what would have been مبتدا خبر, but now expressed as مفعول به أول مفعول به ثاني. Well, here not مفعول به ثاني. What is مفعول به? ثاني and مفعول به ثالث. This is فعل قلب in the meaning of ظن. This is فعل قلب in the meaning of يقين, surety. Is that clear? So you have and this is what? These have two maf'uls, and this has three maf'ul, but the second two are the mubtada and the khabar. This is the maf'ul bihi awwal, and the maf'ul bihi thani and thalith. But the thani and thalith are originally the mubtada and the khabar. And then we can have what? The same piece of information that Fatima is sick, but instead of having it as maf'ul bihi thani and thalith or maf'ul bihi and maf'ul bihi thani, we can express it as what? Was anna Fatimata maridatun and ismun mu'awwal. So the same thing. You have a fa'lu qalb. You have a fa'lu qalb to know something. This could also be a'lam if you want to be informed. You have any fa'lu qalb, but instead of having the mubtada khabar becoming maf'ul bihi thani, maf'ul bihi thani, that shibhul, that whole ismun mu'awwal, the harf masdar and its sila, that becomes what? That takes the place of two maf'uls. Or you can also have a sentence, Ma Fatimatu maridatan, Fatima is not sick. That sentence takes the slots of two maf'uls. Is that clear to everybody? Yes, this ma is ma mushabbahun bilaysa. Any other questions? Dhanna and alima are the same in terms of what they do. It's like kana and laysa. They are the same in grammar. Both make the ism marfu and the khabar mansoob, but the meaning is different. Kana means was, laysa means is not. So dhanna means, dhanna makes the mubtada and the khabar maf'ul awwal, maf'ul thani. Alima also makes maf'ul awwal, maf'ul thani. However, dhanna means to think, not to be like assume. Khayal hai. And alima is certainty, yaqeen, I know. So the meaning is different, but the i'rab and the function in grammar is the same. Is that clear? So alhamdulillah, we finished the fa'al muta'addi. So we have fa'al qiyasi and we have fa'al muta'addi. Muta'addi with one maf'ul, that's a standard. Muta'addi with two maf'uls, you get that as standard. And you have the af'al al-qulu, af'al al-tahweel. And we then know that they make the mubtada and the khabar into the maf'ul bihi and maf'ul bihi thani. And you can also have, you can say that sadda masadda maf'ulay fa'al qalb. That the harf mushabbah, the ism mu'awwal, which is harf mawsool and the sila, or a jumla in some cases can take the place of the two maf'uls. Okay, حفظ الصديقان القرآن. Let's do some إعراب now. حفظ الصديقان القرآن. Let's start from the top. How do the إعراب of this? So فعل ماض مبني على الفتح. Then is a ضمير مستتر. What's the فاعل? What's the grammatical state? مرفوع. How is it مرفوع? بالألف. Very good. And Al-Qur'an. No, the noon is not part of the I'rab. The noon is like an additional part. Al-Qur'an. منصوب بالفتحة. Got it? G. Next one. So the first word we have is what? اتبع. So we say what? فعل is here. So the فعل ماضي always has a fatha. So it's مبني. What's it مبني with? It always has what at the end? على الفتح. Okay. Then we have al-Muslimun. So the Muslims follow the messengers. So al-Muslimun, what does this become now? Muslimun becomes what? And the fa'il is always in which state? And how is the marfu expressed? With the waw. So you say marfu'un bil? Marfu'un bil waw. Then next word we have is mursaleen. So the Muslims follow the messengers. So mursaleen becomes what? What's the i'rab of maf'ulun bihi? It's mansoob. What's the sign of the mansoob? The ya. So muslimun, muslimin. So it's mansoobun. We say bil ya'i. Okay, good. So in here, this is, if you look here, this is the fa'al. This is the fa'al. It's an amil. It's a qiyasi verb. It makes a fa'il marfu' and the maf'ul bihi mansoob. It's a fa'al muta'addi. And it has one maf'ul. Okay? G. So we have here G. So tamassaka, which bab is it from? It's from bab tafa'ul. So tafa'ul, so tamassakat. Okay? So we say here fa'alun. So let's put in blue. 1 minute here. So really, so this tamassakatis salihat. Originally, what was it? Tamassaka, tamassaku, tamassakat. Correct? So what's happening here? Tamassakat. So this is original tamassakat. And okay, so we say here, what is it going to be? So this is the additional part. What's the ta for? To show it's feminine. So what is it? Fa'ilun. Okay, then mabniyun alal fathi. Now, this ta is a separate particle as a harf. How do they show the I'rab? How do you do this? When you have the ta, ta'nith, you say ata alamatu ta'nith. This ta at the end of the verb, fa'ala, fa'ala, fa'alu, fa'alat. This ta is what? Is sign of mu'annath. This is the sign to show the verb is what? Mu'annath. Or to show the fa'il is mu'annath. So you say, so tamassakat, so it's mabniyun ala sukun, isn't it? No? However, it's mabni al-sukun. That's original i'rab. Correct? But why is it tamassakatis salihat? So, for pronunciation. So we say here it's alamatu ta'nith. Then we say originally it's mabni al-sukun. But why has it got a kasra? Kusirat. What does kusirat mean? It has been, it's been given kasra. It's been given a kasra. Why? Lam, ju, iltaqa, what laqiya yalqa mean to meet. Iltiqa, meeting. Ju to meeting, coming together. Sakinain, of two sakin. So it's really, so as-salihat is really what? So right here, tamassakat, is you have the ta marbut ta sakin. Then you have as, It's really as-sa-lihat before the idgham. So we have one sakin on the ta, tamassakat, as-sa-lihat. So when two sakins come together, you can't read it that. What do you have to do? You give the first one a kasra. So originally it's tamassakat. The fa'il is mabni on the kaf. Tamassaka, tamassaka, tamassaku, tamassaka. The ta comes to show as feminine. It's mabni al sukoon. But because of iltiqa'u sakinain, because of this is the term you need to remember. Iltaqa, yaltaqi, iltiqa, and meeting, coming together. Because of coming together of two sakin, what do? Kusirat. We give kasra to the ta. Okay? Do you understand? Is everyone following this? How do you I'rab of this? Okay, so let's do it again. Have you understood it? How we do the I'rab of this? So what we do again? How do you do it? But what is it first? It's a harf. When it's a harf, you have to say what it is. You say yes. So it's alamatu ta'nith. Whenever you have a harf, you say what it is. So it's alamatu ta'nith. And alamatu ta'nith that comes on a verb is usually what? Fa'alat. It's usually what? What is it going to be? Mabniyun alas. That's original. But is it sukoon still or has it got kasra? So you have to explain. Why is it kasra? You say kusirat, it has been given kasra. Why? Because of liltiqa is-sakinain. Liltiqa is-sakinain. That's I'rab. You write alam ta'nis, this is a function, this is what it is. This is the original mabni ala sukoon. This is then a temporary change to it because of circumstances. So when you write the I'rab of this time, you write it like this. Understood? And then, what's the I'rab of salihat? So fa'ilun marfu'un bil-dhammati. Good. And continuing, what do we have here? Harfun jar, harfu jarrin. What is it going to be? Mabni? Mabni, not be, mabniyun. You say mabni ala al-kasra. Just the way they say. So when it's mabni, it's mabni ala marfu'un bi. Then we have sunnati. What does sunnati become? Majroorun. How? Majroorun bil kasrati. It's majroor, and the sign of majroor is kasra. Then you have al-habibi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is what? But what's the grammatical function? So really here, if you look at it here, this is a bit of a kind of, okay, it's not, yeah, this will really be majroor, because it's a majroor of the harfun jar. I'rab is majroor as well, but there's no point writing majroor. You get what I'm saying? Because remember it has two functions. Normally it would have been what? Fa'ilun, marfu'un. So it's majroorun because it comes after harfun jar. I'rab is majroor, so you don't write two of them, you write majroor, one. But in habib you have to say what? Mudafun ilay is a function. What's the i'rab? Majroorun bil kasrati. And then, what do you say after that? This whole shibul jumla becomes what? Maf'ulun bihi. Sari or ghayr sari? Maf'ulun bihi ghayr sari. Why is it mahallan, not bil something? Because it's not apparent. Good, well done. G. Next one we have G. G, your turn. فعل ماض مبني على الفتح. Yeah, you said I wrote Allah, but you should really write what? Lafzul Jalala. That's my mistake. You write Lafzul Jalala. Very good. Fa'ilun marfu'un bil dhammati. Then maf'ulun bihi. My hands are getting tired. منصوب منصوب بالكسرة هكذا منصوب بالكسرة. correct. جمع المؤنث سالم مرفوع بالضمة سماوات سماوات سماوات. good. right. Wow. We forgot the wow. yeah. We say wow. حرف عطف. is it معرب مبني؟ مبني على الفتح. good. then not معطوف عليه معطوف. yeah. so معطوف على و. what's it معطوف on? yeah. so it's معطوف and this is معطوف عليه. so the معطوف عليه you say معطوف on. you have to say what's معطوف on. it's معطوف on سماوات. so these two join. in Turkey we say what this is. in Turkey we say this is مفعول به. but in I'rab this is a مفعول به and this is معطوف on the مفعول به. so معطوف على السماوات and then what is it? what's the I'rab? منصوب بالفتحة. yes. good. جي. yeah. what حرف استثناء? we haven't done that yet. we can leave that. جي. آتينا. so فعل ماضي مبني على سكون. because آتي. what's the na becoming? the na is then what? فاعل مرفوع what? it's مرفوع محلا, isn't it? and then because then you write the مبني إعراب at the end. so then you write here مبني على السكون. right? so you write here. so there's two parts of it. you write the fa'il marfu' mahallan part first, and then it's a mabni word, you write the mabni part at the end. okay? Dawuda maf'ulun bihi. then mansubun bil fathati. then Zabura مفعول به ثان منصوب بالفتحة. God. Gee, who's gonna have a go at this one? Who's next? Bismillah. so dhanna. yeah. so it's فعل ماضي, correct, but because it's not a normal فعل. what kind of فعل is it? it's فعل قلب, isn't it? so we will add that in it. when it's you don't label normal verb. when it's a bit abnormal you label it so it's clear. so فعل قلب and it's also ماضي. فعل قلب ماضي. so we know that فعل قلب we look for two مفعولs, so we can add that in as well. okay? yes. so فعل قلب ماضي. then مبني الفتح. you know that by now. I'm going to write that again. then أحمد فاعل مرفوع بالضمة. tired of writing. خالدا مفعول به منصوب بالفتحة. صادقا مفعول به ثاني منصوب بالفتحة. جعل فعل ماض على مبني على الفتح. القرآن فاعل مرفوع بالضمة. الصحابة مفعول به منصوب بالفتحة. نجوما مفعول به ثان منصوب بالفتحة. أنبأتك فاطمة الله أكبر. Am I right to now? It's a bit longer. بسم الله. Amba'at kaji. So فعل ماض مبني على الفتح. Then the ta is what? والتاء, because it's مبتدا. والتاء علامة التأنيث. Then مبني من السكون. Then ka مفعول به منصوب محلا مبني على الفتح. Good. فاطمة فاعل مرفوع بضمة. الله لفظ جلالة مفعول به مفعول به ثاني, isn't it? Because it's مفعول به already, isn't it? So you have to add that one word in. Yes? And Al-Akbar is what? ثالث. مفعول به ثالث منصوب بالفتحة. Good. Now we have أعلم أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. So let us just finish off the إعراب. So we have أعلم أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله. Okay, how would you do the إعراب of this? That's fine. So أعلم فعل مضارع مرفوع بالضمة. That's fine. Then you could put it is حرف المصدر, but what will label as حرف مشبه بالفعل? It is حرف مصدر as well, but call it حرف مشبه بالفعل. We forgot the fa'il. Where's the fa'il of أعلم? So what is the zamir mustatir? What is mustatir? You have to say ana. Yeah, so ana is zamir mustatirun. Then fa'il marfu'un. So it's fa'il and it's marfu', but it's hidden, so it's fa'il marfu'. Ana is zamir mustatir, it's fa'il marfu' mahalla. Then anna is harf mushabbahun bil fa'il mabni al fathi. Then muhammadan اسم أن منصوب بالفتحة. Good. Then عبد خبر أن. No, it is معطوف. You don't have to. It is معطوف. You don't have to say it. You just say here خبر أن مرفوع بالضمة. That's it. Good. مضاف إليه مجرور بالكسرة. Okay. Then what is it though? Wow is مبني على الفتح, but what particle is it? Yeah, so you say wow حرف عطف مبني على الفتح. Then yeah. So now what you have to say here, when you have Rasul, so when you have معطوف عليه and معطوف, what do you have to say? You have to say it's what? معطوف على what? So this is معطوف on the word abd. So abd and Rasul. So that why is it marfu? It's ma'mul bit tabaiyya. The dhamma here, the marfu here is following the marfu of this. So you have to mention what's ma'tuf on. So ma'tufun ala abdin, then marfu bit dhamma. Then mabni ala dhammi. Now the question is how we have to now put all of this into one slot. So now what we say, you say anna وَمَا بَعْدَهَا. Anna, or what is after it. Anna, and what is after it. Ismun mu'awwal. So anna wa ma ba'daha ismun mu'awwal. Anna, or what is after anna, become an ismun mu'awwal. You got it? So this, even though is many words, we would say that ismun mu'awwal is considered to be one noun. Are we done ismun mu'awwal already in Sughra, yes? Correct? Good? Okay, so we already done this in Sughra, we say ismun mu'awwal. Then, what do we say here? We done in this rule, we done in the rules, that ismun mu'awwal or the jumla can yasuddu masadda maf'ulay fa'la qalb. That the ism of the anna is ism and the khabar. The ism mu'awwal can take the place of the two maf'uls of fa'lul qalb. So we say here is the ism mu'awwal. We will say that the anna Muhammadan Abdullah wa Rasul is ism mu'awwal. And this ism mu'awwal, what is it? What's the i'rab of it? What is it becoming? Is it maf'ulun bihi? It's not maf'ulun bihi. It's maf'ul bihi thani. No, it's both of them. Sa'adun is taking the place, taking, blocking, occupying the place. Occupying the place. Sa'adun means to block. We say it's occupying. Is occupying, masadda, the place. Is occupying the place of the two maf'uls, the two maf'ul bihi of a'lamu, which is here. So a'lamu is a fa'lul qalb. It should have two maf'ul bihi. A'lamu Muhammadan Abdallahi wa Rasulahu. Two maf'ul bihis. But because of anna, then it becomes one slot. And this one slot, the ism mu'awwal, anna wa ma ba'daha is ism mu'awwal. That becomes what? Sa'adun masadda maf'ulay a'lam. It takes the place of both maf'uls of a'lam. And then this ism mu'awwal is mansubun mahallan because it's taking the place of two maf'uls. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, so do it again, the last one. So what happens here? So doesn't matter. Just read it. Even if you got a screenshot, if you just read it, you get more fluent with it. So when is it going to be? Yeah. So ism mu'awwal. But what's become ism mu'awwal? Anna wa ma ba'daha. Anna wa ma ba'daha ismun mu'awwalun. Correct? Say in is anna wa anna and what is after anna wa ma ba'daha ismun mu'awwalun. Say again with me. Anna wa ma ba'daha ismun mu'awwal. So now we know what it is. What's the i'rab of it? You see here sadun taking the place. Sadun masadda maf'ulay a'lam. Sadun taking the place of what? Masadda maf'ulay a'lam. Taking the place of both maf'uls of a'lam. So here again. Anna wa ma ba'daha ismun mu'awwal. Sadun masadda maf'ulay a'lam. Mansubun mahallan. It's mansub mahallan. Understood? Do you go ahead with the question? If you drop the anna, it become a'lamu Muhammadan Abdallahi wa Rasulahu. So then the Abdullah, the Muhammad will become maf'ulun bihi awwal, and Abda will become maf'ulun bihi thani. So if you drop the anna, the mu'assim awwal becomes maf'ul awwal, maf'ul bihi thani. You got it? No, it wouldn't be. Because each word now is taken. So if you were to take this out, let's go again. If you take this out, right? Then what would this become? Maf'ul awwal? This become maf'ul bihi thani. So this will become maf'ul bihi thani. There's not sa'adun masadda anymore because this means what? It's not taking the place of two maf'ul. This is the maf'ul bihi awwal. This is the maf'ul bihi thani. With anna, then this takes the place of two maf'uls. You see the difference? There's a slight difference in meaning. We'll do it in balagha, inshallah. Remember, in Arabic, every single structure has its own meaning. You never have two structures that mean the same. When we say for example, you can't do this, you can't do that, that's just Nahwa. In Balagha, there's a difference between every single structure. The Arabs don't use, Quranic Arabic, there's no two structures that are the same. If it has a different structure, different meaning. Maybe a very subtle meaning, but there will be a difference. So, but that's for Balagha. In Nahwa, I'm teaching you what you can do. That we'll do in Balagha, inshallah. Do you carry on, Brother Wali? The I'rab of this? فعل ماض مبني على السكون. good. فاعل مرفوع محلا مبني على السكون. ما حرف مشبه بليس. no then why is it مبني مبني على مبني على السكون. good. One minute, carry on. كاذبا خبر ما then منصوب بالفتحة. then yeah, so now what we say here now? Yeah, so yeah, so we say here the jumla ما أنا كاذبا, that sentence is مضاف. This is now مضاف إليه, the مضاف and مضاف إليه. So now here the jumla ما أنا كاذب صادة, because why? Jumla is مؤنث, so it has a match مبتدأ. When you do the إعراب of this, you say the jumla ما أنا كاذبا صادة مسد مفعولي علمت منصوب محلا. The jumla is منصوب محلا. Do you understand? You understand the إعراب of this? In the previous example, the حرف مشبه بالفعل, the اسم and the خبر, it becomes اسم مؤول, and that اسم مؤول is صاد مسد مفعولي أعلم. And in here, علمت, the ما أنا كاذبا is the jumla ما أنا كاذب is صادة, the jumla, so صادة مسد مفعولي علمت. Do you understand how you do Arab? So these are all فعل القلب, and a فعل القلب must have two مفعول به. However, you can have a اسم مؤول or a jumla taking the place of both مفعولs. And in that case, you say the Arab is what? Not مفعول. You won't name it مفعول به individually. You will say the jumla or the اسم مؤول is صاد or صادة مفعولي, the verb أعلم or علمت, etc. etc. فهمت؟ منصوب محلا. Yes, correct. Understood? G. Any other questions? Yes? Okay, so alhamdulillah, we finished our فعل متعدي and the إعراب فعل متعدي. Okay, سبحان الله بحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك.